University was founded in 2008 by Peter Diamandis and Ray Kurzweil. In fact, if you heard Salim's keynote this morning, you probably have a decent sense of who we are. What I find interesting is that not only is SU about what we call exponential technologies and the implications to every industry, society, and humanity, but it's about using those technologies to do good in the world. At our founding conference in 2009, Larry Page from Google stood up and said, hey, if you guys are going to convene leaders from around the world to teach them about these technologies, then you better point them at the world's biggest problems, because there just aren't enough people doing that today. There are a lot of things happening today, and if you're in corporate innovation or a C-level executive at a big company, you're looking around a lot, right? You're looking at social, mobile, big data, cloud. Those might even be yesterday at this point, I don't know. But you're looking around a lot. But it's harder to look ahead, and we all know why, right? I mean, you guys are in this space. So these technologies are rapidly accelerating, and some of them have hit that knee of the curve, like 3D printing. I think virtual reality is probably coming. But there are a lot of technologies like quantum computing as an example that will be so relevant to everything that we do. So how do you actually get a big organization to step into those spaces, to start experimenting, when that's not on anybody's business plan today? So we talk a lot, as I said, about how technology can unlock solutions that will change the world. So what you see on the right is what we call global grand challenges. I'm starting to frame them in my head as global grand opportunities, sort of two sides of the same coin. Peter Diamandis says often that the world's biggest problems are also the world's biggest opportunities, which speaks to why should a big corporation who's focused on next quarter's earnings report actually care about the water problem? And we could talk for hours about shared value and what that looks like, but we think a lot about that at SU because we fundamentally believe that as much as there's a spotlight on entrepreneurs today in attacking those problems, big corporations are need to play a critical role in actually affecting change, right? They have all the infrastructure, the assets, the capital, the knowledge, the people, the distribution networks. Why wouldn't you want to engage Coca-Cola in solving the water problem, right? It's not just the world of entrepreneurs.
The problem is that we're all taught that we live and we should work on this linear path, right? So the idea is that you are working really hard and you're improving your product or service little by little, and then the idea is that if you work really hard and you're diligent, that somehow you're going to continue to go up. The problem is that we don't live in a linear world, but yet we work on a linear path. It seems kind of messed up. And we actually live in an exponential world. And what happens in an exponential curve, as you can see here, is that the exponentiality begins to compound on itself, and it happens faster and faster. In the 1920s, the average time on the S&P 500 was 67 years, and now it's only 15, right? So, there's all of these cautionary tales like Blockbuster and all the other things that were around that no one ever thought would go away are now gone because they were working on a linear path. This wasn't Enron. These weren't bad people doing bad things. These were good, smart people working on a linear path when in actuality they live in an exponential world. Okay, great. I'm freaked out. We live in an exponential world if you end up believing that, which I hope you do because it's true. If you believe you live in an exponential world, well, what do? We have to partner with exponentially thinking people, and you need to empower a few people on the outside to be able to work and build on this exponential line. Because if you're not building stuff on this exponential curve, you will get wiped out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. It will happen. It's going to happen. The other part is, as you can see here at the bottom of my little chart here, the dip before the exponential breaks the linear part. Anything that's truly new, truly different, truly disruptive, usually, almost without fail, there's big hype when it comes out, and then when people actually get to try it, there's usually massive disappointment. And we call that the deceptive disappointment part of the curve. And what happens is, if you have something that's new and different and the hype doesn't match up with the expectation right then, people make fun of it, and then it seems to fall off the face of the earth, but it really doesn't. What happens is there's still that core group of people working on it. And then all of a sudden, it feels like almost overnight, it's a success. Virtual reality is a good example of that. Virtual reality has been around since the 80s and 90s, and people just forgot about it until Oculus Rift came out. And then all of a sudden, if you had been working on VR and AR, your skills are in really high demand right now. You can do quite well. Ask the founders of Oculus how they're doing. And then if you're ready and preparing during the deceptive part of the curve, you can really maximize the benefit on the disruptive opportunity that happens on the end. So what we do at SU, and with our partners at SU, and what we do at the Lowe's Innovation Labs is we try to identify what the future is, we work against that and we work through the deceptive, disappointing part of the curve. So I am very open with our executive team that this is all the stuff that we're working on should be deceptively disappointing initially. It should come out and we should be embarrassed of the things that we just came out with 6 months ago because things have advanced so much. But if you're not working on that part, you won't survive. And we all believe that, and that's why we exist.